Alright guys, so we're back today, and like I promised, today's video we're going to be making the video on getting the box open and replacing the components that you want to replace. So if your evaporator core does not come with a new thermal expansion valve, now would be the time to take this one out if it's good and switch it over, which is what I'm going to be doing. I'm not going to purchase another one just because I believe there's nothing wrong with this one. And you know, I'm not a big fan of replacing something if it's not broken. Sometimes it makes sense, like in this situation here. If you are going to replace anything, being that this is such a difficult task to get this assembly out, I am going to be changing the heater core, which there's nothing wrong with it, and of course the evaporator core, which is leaking. However, what I recommend, and I didn't follow my own advice here because it's my own personal vehicle, but what I recommend is if you are going to do this job and you plan on replacing components, even if they're not bad, go with the OEM. I mean, this, as far as my understanding, is this box has never been opened, and I'll show you how I can tell in a minute. But so that means that the heater core that I'm going to be putting in here is not OEM, it's an aftermarket, so that could create more problems than it's worth. So if you're going to go through that whole process of getting this thing out, I recommend one of two things. Either one, buy the entire assembly from Ford, or two, buy at least, if you can get them, OEM heater core and OEM evaporator core. This truck for me personally is kind of on its way out, so I'm not overly concerned about it, but it is a good practice to follow. So let's get started. What you're going to want to do is these clips that hold on your quick connects for your heater hoses, you're going to remove them, and the thermal expansion valve, we're going to take these two Torx out. They're a Pt.2. So we're going to get all that removed, and I'll try and see if I can get you in a shot here. Let's see how that does. All right. So you're going to get a pocket screwdriver or something and get underneath these tabs to lift them over the crimp in the metal tubing. So what you're going to want to do is just get your pocket screwdriver underneath these, and you're going to lift them up, and you'll see it'll make sense as you're looking at yours if you're not familiar with it at all. So you're going to get your pocket screwdriver underneath them, you're going to lift them up and over the crimp on the metal tubing of your heater core, and you're going to slide them off. Now mine I had broken yesterday trying to get off. It's no big deal. You can buy new ones at the store. But you're going to want to put them on the new heater core, again, if the new heater core does not come with them. So let's take out the thermal expansion valve, which, of course, this gun is right in your way. Okay, there's one. Let's put that off to the side for now. Here's two. Okay, and here's your thermal expansion valve. Okay, take a good look at it, make sure there's nothing that is, you know, dirty, corroded, indents, or anything like that. Like I said, mine, to the best of my knowledge, my air conditioner was working completely fine, minus the leak. I had a really bad odor of the refrigerant in the cab, and that's extremely bad for you to breathe and everything. So outside of that, it was still cooling very well until all the Freon leaked out. So you're going to want to get rid of this rubber gasket. Okay, now that we have all these components out, I can show you how I know that this has never been taken apart. Actually, before I do that, let me back up. If you're not familiar with these systems at all, these all have O-ring kind of washers on them, and at some point, just make sure that the new one that you put in, they're going to be on both sides of this expansion valve. So you're going to have gaskets on this side, the back side here, and you're going to have them on the front side, which go to the lines in the engine compartment side. So make sure that the old ones come off, and do not put new ones over the old ones. Okay, make sure the old ones come off. Make sure you put new ones on that are the correct size for each line. And that's going to ensure that you have a nice sealed up joints. Okay, now again, this is filthy. It's no big deal though, because that's coming out. I'm not worried about it. All right, so let's get to how I know that this has never been opened before. Because if you look underneath where all of the horizontal joint of the box that has to come apart, you can see all these melted plastic. Okay, it's almost kind of like they plastic riveted this box together. Now, if you pay attention to this area here, there's a hole up underneath each one of these. That's threaded inserts for a bolt to go in after these have been opened. After this has been opened. So you're going to have to go out and get your own bolts. Thank you, Ford, to reinstall this box. So what I recommend doing is taking out one of these bolts and going to your local hardware store, and you should be able to match something up and get as many as you need. I have not done that yet. I'm going to have to do that myself. However, there is also a video that I'm going to link in the description of these videos. This guy, it's a 2014 Ford that he does, and it's basically the same exact thing. I recommend watching both videos. His is a very long, very in-depth video, but it shows you everything, and he's very good at it. And mine is going to be more of just the highlights of what you need to do. So if you need to, I would refer to both videos, and they'll definitely help you get this job done. So with that being said, what you're going to have to do is get yourself a drill bit, and I'll show you one, and then I'm going to do the rest off camera. So let's see if we can get this up sideways, if we can get you a view here. Okay, so let me get the right size drill bit. Just bear with me while I adjust this camera. I'm working on the grass on the outside of my house right now, and it's not cooperating very well. So let me get a drill bit. And it's okay if you drill it bigger. You're not going to hurt the plastic, and nothing is going back in here again. So I'm going to use a 5/16 drill bit to start with. And if that winds up being too big, then I'll step it down to a 1/4. But I'm going to drill the first one out. Okay, so we poked that through there. And then what you're probably going to want to do is take a razor knife and just scrape off the underside. Make sure it's a nice sharp knife and keep your fingers out of the way. And just scrape off the extra. And once you do that to every one of these holes, that should open up your box for you. So like I said, I'm going to do the rest of them. I don't know if you can see that now compared to that one there. So that's just with a 5/16 drill bit and a sharp razor knife. And you go around the entire box. This half of the box can stay. It's from this side all the way around to the underside that's laying on the ground right now. So once you go and you do that, clean up all your shavings and everything. As you can see, I'm making a mess, but I'm gonna do that off camera. And once I get it open, I'll bring it back. Okay, so another thing you're gonna notice is this here is your evaporator temperature sensor. Okay, this wire that goes in here, you're gonna have to remove it from up here where the connector's hooked until you get the upper half of the box off. Now, after you get all those plastic rivets drilled out and cleaned up, there are a few 8mm bolts around here. Just take your time, go around and take a look. All of this blower duct should come off with the upper half of the box, so you shouldn't have to remove any of these here. Anything like that should be able to stay. Your actuator should stay. If you do want to change any actuators, again, now is the time to do it and make it a lot easier out of the car than when you put it back in. The blower motor resistor, you can swap that out too if you want. I'm not going to, but it is a very good time to. So just keep an eye out and look around. There are quite a few 8mm bolts in here, so after you get the rivets taken out, go ahead and remove all those bolts too. Alright guys, so I got it apart, but once again, there was more stuff that I missed. You just have to go over with your eyes. There are a lot of bolts here. You have to take off pretty much everything at the top separate. So this ductwork has to come off of this side of the box. Okay, it sits over the top of here. This other ductwork here in my hand sits over the top here. It's all got to come off because basically there's one bolt when this sits over the top like this. There's one bolt right under in here. I think it's this one that you need this assembly off to be able to get at it. So yeah, there's one bolt under there. This has to come off for sure. So you might as well just take it all off. It's a couple more 8mm bolts, and then you'll have what you're after. Which, for me, I was after the evaporator core, and as I'm looking into my heater core, I may not change it. It's not leaking at all. It's fine. But if you can see my evaporator core, that's exactly what I suspected. That's all the refrigerant oil and the dye. So this was definitely leaking just like I thought it was. So let's go ahead and pull this out. And you can see all in the bottom, there's all traces of dye, and this whole bottom, I don't know if the light is showing up good through here or not, but this whole thing is soaked with refrigerant oil. So yeah, this was a culprit for sure. That's good news. That's what I was expecting, because I shouldn't say it's good news. You never want to have to do a job like this. It's a pain in the neck, but at least it wasn't done for no reason, right? So what you're going to want to do is pull this sensor out, especially if your new evaporator core didn't come with one. And it just kind of looks like they jammed it in there somewhere in between the fins. So what I'll do is I'll look at the new evaporator core, and worst case scenario, I don't think it has to be 100% in the same exact location on a new one. Don't quote me on that because I'm not too familiar. I figured it would have been a set orifice, you know, like with a gasket, and like it was built into there. This just looks like they shoved it in between fins, which kind of makes me a little bit nervous too to do it on a new one, because you don't know what you're going to puncture, if anything. So I'll do a little bit of research into that. When I come up with an answer, I'll show you guys. But here's going to be the mode that I'm going to be into cleaning the box and everything. I don't need to show you that stuff. I'm just going to keep reiterating, if there's anything that you think you want to change, right now is the time to do it. You have everything at your disposal. You got the blower motor, you got your resistor here, you got your heater core, your actuator doors, right? You got everything's right at your disposal. So if you have the money and you want to change stuff, now's the time to do it. If not, just clean and go. And that's what I'm going to be working on. So once we get it put back in, I'll bring it back, and then the third video will be the build back, putting everything back in the car. And there is another thing I meant to tell you with those screws that I'll show you in the third video. The ones that go into the box through the firewall, they might still hold you up. So what you might have to do is, if it's spinning and you can't get the nut off, you might have to have a friend pull the box outward away from the firewall as you're turning it, because otherwise all it's going to do is strip the plastic inside here and you still might fight it. So I'll show you that in the next video. But just be aware of that. If that nut won't come off the firewall side, just keep turning it with your wrench or your impact and have a buddy pull this out while you're doing it, and it'll come free. All right, we'll be back. All right, guys, so I'm back again. Ran into yet another issue. So I'll show you. So basically, I have here the new evaporator core. It's a Four Seasons brand. It's on the left. The old one is on the right. Now, I don't know if you can tell through here, but the old evaporator core, the original, the fins in between the supports here, they're thicker than here on the new one. So here's where the problem comes in. This is the temperature probe. Okay, and like I said before, it came out of here, just like that. But if you notice, the distance between the center of the actual, here, let me move it over here and show you. The center of the actual probe on the left and the plastic, it's just really like a retainer to hold it in place on the right. It's meant to fit perfectly in between these fins here on the original equipment. On the new Four Seasons one, I don't know if you can see it with the glare of the sun. I apologize if you can't, but it does not line up. The temperature probe on the left, when it's right in the center of the ribs, the black retainer tab on the right kind of lands right in the groove in between. So what I'm going to attempt to do is shave down a portion of this plastic right here, maybe halfway down the middle, maybe just take a little bit of it off so it fits, and I'm going to put it in, and then I'll do a follow-up in a few days, maybe a week or so after running it, and see how it works. But you kind of have to have this probe in, or your air conditioning system will not function properly. So I called Ford, and I was looking to see if I can get an evaporator core that would be more like this, and they told me that they don't sell that separately. They only sell the entire box, which was like $700 and something, which you guys saw the rust and everything else on the truck. I'm not putting that much money into this thing, especially just for an air conditioner. So I'm going to try to make do with what I have here, and I'll let you know if it works, or if you find yourself in the same boat like me, you may have to spring for an entire new box, which will have the sensor, the evaporator core, the heater core. It all comes pre-assembled. But for me, that's just too big of a chunk of money to put into this truck right now while it's on its way out. So yeah, stay tuned, and we'll come back for the next video for the installation of everything, and then I'll do a follow-up after that one and let you know if it actually works, my little modification. So stay tuned. Alright guys, so I got it installed, and all I did was I cut the outer portion of that lengthwise, and it is now able to fit in between the fins. Once again, I don't know if that skewed the sensor or ruined it in any way. It shouldn't have, but hey, crazier things have happened, right? So like I said, I'll keep you updated. I just wanted to show you. I just scored it all the way down the center a bunch of times with a razor knife, and then I cut the back end up against the sensor itself and then put it in. It's in there tight and secure, so we'll see if it did any damage or if it works out. Alright guys, so we're back again, and what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be getting off this cover that comes with your new evaporator, and we're going to be installing the thermal expansion valve. So I have my Allen keys somewhere around here. I'll be right back. All right, so I have my Allen keys here, and we're gonna say it looks like 532 maybe. Nope, too big. Eighth looks too small. Yep, so probably metric. Which, why wouldn't it be? American cars, right? Okay. So at this point you have two options. Number one, you have to fill the evaporator inlet with 1.5 ounces of the PAG oil that is required. So you can either do that now, or you can do it like I'm going to do it, and I'm going to add it to the low side when I go to charge the system. You need a special injection tool for that. They're not all that expensive. It's just the fact that you need another tool, versus right now if you were to put it in here now, you don't need any special tools for it. You just dump it in. But the main advantage for me doing it later is that I will not have to worry about tipping this thing forward or letting it spill out or anything along the lines like that. And not that it will, but you never know. So I'm just gonna do it later, but that's completely personal preference. So make sure you put your new washers on. Okay, and while these are on, I might swap this one out with the old one. Let me see if I can get it on there. Alright, so if you take a look, this is a new one that just came with the new evaporator. And this is the old one that came off the Ford original. So if this one will fit and work, I'm going to put this one on. If it doesn't, I'll just go back to the one that came with the evaporator. Alright, well, we don't want to bend them too much and create leaks, but so far it might be okay. We'll see when we put this valve on. So these two bolts here, this is going to be your top side, that's your bottom side. There's really only one way it can go based on the diameter of the openings anyway. And these two bolts that hold this in, they are going to get torqued down to 71 inch-pounds. That's the problem with these aftermarket parts. They don't ever want to fit right. Let's see what we can do about this. Alright. It's on. Let's see if we can grab that that plate in the back. That's going to be tough. Alright, again, these are T27s. Okay, I think I got the one side started. Let's see if we can grab the other one and get it started. Okay, it looks like it is. And you want to do this as even as you can. 71 inch-pounds is not all that much. I recommend having a very small torque wrench if you're going to do it. If not, use a very small handled 1/4 inch drive. It's not going to take much. 71 inch-pounds is not much. I happen to have my torque wrench right here. It's a little husky one. And we're going to see, I might need an extension for it. So I'm going to grab one of them real quick. And I'll tell you what, it's a much nicer day today than it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday there was a crazy heat wave here. It was like 95, almost 100 degrees, something like that. And I can tell you what, you'd probably be able to tell in my tone and everything yesterday that I was not a happy camper. I mean, it is what it is. The job's not an easy job to begin with, and when you add the heat on top of it, it's never a good time. So it doesn't take much. And then just to be sure, I'll go get a small 1/4 inch ratchet and double check it. Again, 71 inch-pounds is not a lot. All right, so there we are. So that's torqued and good to go. The next thing I have to do is clean the mating surfaces on the line end that's inside the engine compartment there. That needs to be cleaned out. This is okay. I mean, as long as it's not raised or anything, a little discoloration is not the end of the world. But I ran some Scotch Brite over it, and it's pretty flush. It's just kind of discoloration at this point. But if you have any bumps or dips, you're going to want to either replace the valve or get it as flat as you can, and hope that the washer will compensate for any discrepancy in the mating surface. So what I wound up doing is I took the bolts that I had and I just put them randomly throughout. I'm not going to go through the trouble of going to the store and getting bolts for every single one of them. It's holding pretty decently, and like I said, the truck for me it's going to be getting junked sooner than later, and so I just decided it's just not worth it. The same thing with the heater core here. I decided I'm not going to replace it, but if you do want to replace it, that's just this bracket up here. You would get rid of these bolts up on top, and the heater core will lift out from the top. And that's about it. So now we're going to go clean the inside, and we're going to get prepped for the install. I think what I am going to do is try and get those bolts out that I was telling you about yesterday that go in here and in the bottom down here and up underneath here. I do think I am going to try to get them removed from the firewall and make it a little bit easier to install, and then we'll go from there. So I still got some cleaning left to do. Again, you guys don't need to see that stuff. I'm just going to highlight everything for you and keep starting and stopping the video to make the video. It's just highlights. This is enough stuff that'll get you through and allow you to do this job yourself. So stay tuned. We'll be back again.